Other teams. South Africa starting with their captain, Kyle Brown, absolutely outstanding player, shortlisted for the World Player of the Year last year, and Cecil Africa as well, who carried the flag out for his country across the city in Wednesday's opening ceremony at Celtic Park. So much experience up against a Trinidad and Tobago team embarking on their third Commonwealth Games. They were with us in Kuala Lumpur and Manchester. First couple of occasions that Sevens was part of this Commonwealth family. The Calypso Warriors, as they're known, the Calypso Warriors against the Blitzbokke. And Simon, we expect the Blitzbokke to be there or thereabouts at the back end of tomorrow.
Without a doubt, a very impressive team and a very consistent team. Probably you'd say one of the specialists of the choke tackle area, one of the game where the South Africans, we know they love the physicality of the game of rugby, something ingrained in the nature in the South African psyche, and they bring it into the Sevens as well. Trinidad and Tobago are going to want to avoid all breakdown areas today.
Man given the responsibility of replacing Paul True last year. Neil Powell now in charge of South Africa. Larry Mendes, the man whose first job here in Glasgow this weekend is to hold on to South Africa's coattails as long as he can. Australian Matthew O'Brien will make sure that law and order is properly adhered to. South Africa against Trinidad and Tobago. Tony Lopez was underneath that and was very rapidly shoved into touch by Kyle Brown.
Once again, the restart, the importance of it, and not only the restart but also the chase there. Brown did superbly well, anticipated not going up to compete, realised it was going to be a wasted effort, and forces a line out here. First attacking opportunity the way of South Africa.
Look at Justin Hedelt. Throws the ball in, but it was very neatly tapped back by Lopez, who's had a busy old start. Not the best of kicks, and Hedelt can come round and launch South Africa once again, weaving a way through a fairly tiny corridor, but he made space nicely, and Senatla immediately, Siabello Senatla exploiting the space that had been engineered by Hedelt very expertly.
Hedelt did extremely well here, didn't he? Assessed his options in the midfield, saw space on the out wide, 15 metres to work with, and Senatla, well, he's going to run that one in every day, isn't he? Very prolific finisher. Hey! Does extremely well. And that's an easy finish.
South Africa twice bronze medalists at the Commonwealths down the years. Manchester 2002, and then Delhi 4 years ago. Just pipping England, they came from behind in the second half to win that one. It won't be a 7-point score. They've been New Zealand's closest challengers on the Sevens circuit this season. They actually led the way for a while at the turn of the year before the All Blacks hauled them in and eventually overtook them.
Just the consistency and possibly the experience of the New Zealand side, which allowed that, week in, week out. We know what a formidable outfit they are, but certainly they're going to be, we expect them to be right in the shake-up at the end of this one.
Once again, the chase from Kyle Brown. Trinidad and Tobago get the ball, but they had to work hard for it. This is Agbula Silverthorne. Back in possession. Oh, there's a little bit of a hair pull there.
Release them! No more. Tackle first.
Referee not overly concerned by what he saw, but it was just
I know what you're saying, he was tackled first.
A hint of something. Let's have a little look at this, Simon. Maybe it was my eyes.
Yeah, certainly there's a great spot there, Nick. Nothing wrong with those eyes. Let's have a look there, and well, that's a penalisable offence in itself in the game of rugby, but penalised for not releasing because the referee ruled the tackle was complete with the player's knees touching the ground.
It's Chris Dry, incidentally, who got the handful of blocks completely inadvertently, but
both lineouts going awry early here. South Africa losing one their attacking line out, and this time Kenya with the, rather Trinidad and Tobago with the overthrow on that occasion. But a chance, nonetheless, on the knock-on. And to try and clear their area, try and control a little bit of possession. They're going to be under pressure, pressing defence that South Africa will use from the outside to try and shut down their space. Take it away from the speedsters in the back line.
Well, we got a shot of the giant-sized prop on this near side, Frankie Horn for South Africa, and he was central to that shove. However, Trinidad and Tobago coming away with it, and it's very, very neatly done. How about that? That is lovely from Silverthorne. Ball back inside to Kwasi. 4 minutes of this first half gone, and Caribbean Islanders challenging for the first time. This is Jesse Richards, rather on his own, so he had to cut back inside to where his mates were. Now the battle for the ball on the floor, and the battle was an illegal one, and South Africa have possession. Taken quickly. Cecil Africa, ball wide to Senatla, and Senatla scuttles in for his second score. That's 7, Simon. One moment you're pressing on the opposition's try line, the next moment you're wandering back underneath your own post.
I know, exactly. It was a superb play, wasn't it, initially by Silverthorne there. And then there was the turn from the penalty. It was very well read again by Africa. You'd expect nothing less from a player of his experience, just to straighten up the attack, use the speed, release the speed on the outside. And Senatla, well, that's another easy run-in. But as you say, it's end-to-end stuff, and it's about conserving when you get down into the opposition, into the green zone, that attacking area, that 22, to maintain your patience and really be disciplined with the ball in hand. And Trinidad and Tobago, well, they just missed out on having the clean out. And as it was, Africa had an easy run and ball in two hands, had options inside, outside, and chose the outside option. Senatla, the easy jog in, and of course, that leisurely tap down over the line.
Love the way as well, he almost dropped down a gear momentarily to make sure that Senatla was on hand for that ball to the left-hand side, constantly aware of where the outlet ball is. Work there again of Carl Brown has been superhuman from the restarts.
Totally committed there. You'd have to question whether or not this one here is actually out on the full at this point. Here, just the ball crosses the line. He was in the field of play, and I think the touch judge, the assistant referee here, he's got that one right. That's an amazing athletic effort, isn't it, by Kyle Brown? But nonetheless, line out conceded.
Slap back by Horn. Allows Heddle to run on with it. Africa, and once again it's Senatla off in search of a quick-fire hat-trick. It's been denied. We're going to have a...
I'm happy with the grounding.
video review
before
here.
you touch and go. Cool.
Oh, the try's been given. Hat-trick confirmed. And hat-trick in less than 7 minutes.
Quick-fire hat-trick and quick-fire decision from the officials there, working well in tandem here. Senatla flying into the corner. They're happy with the grounding. Just wanted to make sure he wasn't taken out in goal, and replay would suggest that wasn't the case. That's a very well-taken try by South Africa. Speed on the outside, that's something ominous, isn't it? Something the other teams, the other title contenders here will be very wary of the South African side in space. Love the pass from Africa as well once again. He is at the heart of everything good in the South African side. Ability to pass, set away the outside very nicely, and when you have speed on the outside to burn, the game does become very easy.
That's well done. Africa has been central to all the good things that South Africa have done in that first half, this first half, as has Carl Brown, the captain. Time's up at the end of the first 7 minutes, but Tony Lopez will give it one last blast for Trinidad and Tobago.
Hands in the
penalty.
They just can't match the power of South Africa at the breakdown, can they? That's, you know, when you have the likes of Kyle Brown, and then as well you have Frankie Horn in there, it's tough work.
Well, that was Werner Koch who came in on the most punishing of angles, and Trinidad and Tobago did well to hold him up initially, but there's no answer to Frankie Horn. Giant-sized nugget of a man with shoulders like girders, and he's forced his way over the line, and South Africa have a fourth try. This was the angle from Koch, though.
There we go, good cover, trying to come in and get across in there and making the tackle, committed with Silverthorne. But once again, once that ball's cleared out, Frankie Horn there is one way and headed straight ahead, and it's going to take some real stopping despite the attention to the tackle of O'Connor there. Frankie Horn rumbles his way over to finish, well, you know, an unspectacular first half, but the potential to go in here if this goes over at 24-0 up without, you feel, having had to do too much.
They don't manage to get the extras. It's 22-0 at half-time, and Neil Powell will wander across, feeling fairly satisfied with his day's work so far. They'll go on to play the Cook Islands as their middle match on this opening Saturday, and then finally at the end of the day against Kenya. 3 games today, and they'll hope 3 games tomorrow. They win the first 2 of these games, which you'd expect against the Trinidadians and then the Cook Islands. They'll be into the quarters already tomorrow. Let's listen to this.
What do you think? There is no playing something too much. There is no playing something too much.
I'm sure one or two of you picked up a little bit of that. Let's see what Larry Mendes is up to.
Confidence, guys, believe in it. We believe in it. They can hop on. They can hop on, fellas. Believe in it. I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. Let's go.
Believe in us, Simon. Have some fun. How about that?
Well, to do that, you've got to have the ball, don't you? Because I tell you what, it's no fun chasing shadows all day. And at the moment, they'll be just overpowered once again by the South African side, who do bring a very physical nature to their 7-a-side rugby. Back that up though with the skill and the good decision making going on out there. They look a formidable unit already, don't they?
They started pretty well. One of the early games, Australia, they're up and running.
That will be the question we'll ask.
Just a fantastic day. It's probably the first time that lots of us have been inside this wonderful old stadium. So much history. We're sitting in the old main stand, the one remaining part of the ground that hasn't been renewed in the last 20 years. It's over 80 years old. It's a listed building, and I don't know, they just don't seem to build stadiums like this one anymore, do they?
No, they certainly don't, and it's conducive to a wonderful atmosphere, which has been building here very nicely all morning. And it's you know, it's just unfortunate the way the games are going at the moment. It's been very one-sided affairs with the superpowers of the game dominating as you'd expect. But what I didn't expect was just the quality of the domination and the fact, the accuracy that they're showing already in the first game of this tournament. These teams extremely well drilled.
Raoul Gordon wasn't far away from cottoning on to the kickoff at the start of this second half, but it is South Africa charging upfield away with it. Run from Warren Whiteley was an insistent one. Number 8, who plays his Super Rugby back home for the Lions in Joburg. Chris Dry providing the link. Werner Kopp, who is a real bare wire when it comes to running with a rugby ball. He will take some stopping from any kind of distance, and they've got numbers here. It's just a question of manufacturing the space. Carl Brown was instrumental in that, and releasing Whiteley, who set the whole thing in motion about 30 seconds previously.
Well, I think you take your hats off to every single player. I think had a hand in this try right from the build-up down inside the 22. Here we see it down in the opposition in the Trinidad Tobago 22. Superb running here, straight, fix the man on the loop, coming round, the easy finish in the corner there for Whiteley it was in the end. But great work again. There was Kyle Brown, but there are all sorts of skills on display in this try that went 85 metres. Well played, South Africa. Clinical rugby.
I guess it's like any type of sport, isn't it? There's a tendency, perhaps even in sevens, to overcomplicate it sometimes. But the best do it simply and brilliantly.
It's the simple things done well and executed time and time again. In this game, what's important? It's space. Space and, of course, possession. And it's how you use it. If you hold the space and the depth is okay with the players, the width has been held, then you'll attack the ball in the right areas. South Africa shifted that point of attack from inside their own 22 to 3 players unmarked down the short side because the players weren't ball chasing. That's a hard thing to do. It's a real discipline. It's coached, and it does take time to build those structures.
Looking forward to seeing more of Cecil Africa as this weekend goes on. Branko de Preer gets us back underway. It's Quagga Smith who worked hard to be right at splashdown from that restart. The Calypso Warriors would have to work hard to get it out of their own half, and I guess that's the simplest way of doing it, but you give away possession and not before long you'll be back under pressure. The referee has fallen over and he's limping. He's back on his feet.
Over.
Australian Matthew O'Brien. De Preer. That was an absolute gift for Koch, and he dropped it, and he doesn't have the receipt.
Well, it certainly was a gift because, once again, South Africa held their space. Trinidad and Tobago defensive line getting very tight up there, and Werner Koch, apologising to his teammate because the pass was absolutely perfect, but it was unfortunately possibly the first mistake they've made today. As we'll just see here. See how tight the defence is on the inside. Holding your space. Here's the pass. Draw and catch and give. Catch. No drop. Knock on. We come back for the scrum. Very disappointed. But as it is, maybe not going to count in this game when you're up by 29 points to 0 with under 4 minutes to go. But I tell you what, those in another game, that could be very costly.
Can you start closer, please?
Yeah, this time tomorrow, when you're playing against better teams. Anyway, there's still room for smiles on the South African bench. We were here yesterday evening, Simon, and there were one or two whispers around the ground. Brian Habana's in town as an injury standby. There were one or two whispers down on the touchline at around 6, 7 o'clock that actually Habana was going to play, and South Africa had suffered an injury. There was a little bit of excitement around Glasgow at the time, but when we got the official confirmed team sheets this morning, Habana's name was not on the list, so he's watching on like us today.
Come on.
And I dare say, possibly for the work that this squad has been through in the 7 series that they've been through and trained together all season, possibly disrupting to have such a superstar, the outside element coming in from Toulon, who gave him a very late release, possibly too late the release to allow him to come and play in the tournament. Anyway, space them behind here, chase on.
Little chip ahead from Figaro, and Kwasi was closest to the bouncing ball, but he wasn't as close as the bottle green shirts that got back just in time. Flicked away by de Preer. On the bounce to Cornel Hendricks. Talking about some of the big names, those who've won Springbok caps. Cornel Hendricks can now call himself one of those. Whiteley was just about kept his feet in play, but not holding on to possession.
Something you don't see very often, just about the whole attack within 15 metres there for Trinidad and Tobago. Certainly not taking up the width, and now they're going to be in trouble if they shift to the open side.
Dry, tiptoeing towards halfway. Ball was knocked on, so Quagga Smith rather disconsolately will have to force his way back. Yes, we're talking about Habana. Hendricks is with us. He's a Springbok of more recent vintage. Made his debut a couple of months ago now against Wales in Durban. Winger with the Cheetahs, and I'm sure we'll develop the conversation over the course of the weekend, but the business of bringing the big star names from 15 aside into sevens, how easy that is, how big a temptation it may be for teams heading into the Olympics and Rio. It's a big conversation within the game at the moment.
Oh, it certainly is, and
knock on.
Having my background being all in 15s, I've got to say I feel the transition to try and come and slot into a 7 structure and understanding of the game, the roles that are required, would be extremely difficult. You could do it possibly with one player, with the great athletes who are both playing in the 7s and the 15s teams worldwide, but wholesale changes, well, we're going to see it with Scotland a little bit, aren't we, later on today. It's going to be interesting to see how their players, the likes of Stuart Hogg, how they reintegrate, although they've had a little bit of time to adapt, how they integrate into the game.
Yes, it will be interesting to see how Neil Powell deals with that. This is Koch, pins his ears back, hair flying behind him, and with the handoff he will roll round under the posts at the Broomloan Road stand here at Ibrox. Not too far in the future, they'll be scoring goals, Rangers. Well, to our left-hand side, at the time being the scoring tries, son.
Just the simplicity of this play here was just straight run. There was a straight runner came in on the short ball. It was fired across him, and Werner Koch there had too much speed on the outside, playing the game in the right areas. There's the big handoff. The big don't argue with me, son, and they're down on the ground chewing grass. And anyway, he's under the post. 36 points to nil. Impressive start here from South Africa.
Is that handoff the best we've seen so far? It was almost spring-loaded, wasn't it? He was timing it.
It has to be, doesn't it? Because if you let it go too early, like any well-thrown punch, it isn't going to work. Love the timing of the pass here, out in front of the player. Plenty to do. Charge up that arm, bring him in close, bring him onto you, and then power
11.
off. And Werner Koch, with the size of those shoulders there, you know there's plenty of power coming from those well-developed upper body strength of the South African rugby players.
David Gokul knew exactly what was coming, but there was very little he could do about it.
That's where you want to get around those ankles.
Yeah. 36-0. The Blitzbokker up to half a dozen tries.
Full time.
And that's it. Perfect start to their day. They'll go on to play the Cook Islands next and then conclude proceedings on this first Saturday against Kenya, which will be their really big competitive match of Pool B. But the two teams that we expect to be going through to the quarterfinals have both won their opening matches. Kenya beating the Cook Islands and South Africa seeing off Trinidad and Tobago 36-0, and really the foundation for that, Siabelo Sonatla's hat-trick in the first 7 minutes.